Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of the Creative Cranium. I got some terrific guests tonight, and I can't wait to talk to them. Please welcome Crayle, Vanest, and Kelly Guentner. Welcome.
Hello.
Man, thanks for coming over. I'm so excited to talk to you both.
We're so excited. Thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
So very creative types, right? Like I've followed a little bit of your projects. Why don't we start out by just telling the viewers a little bit who might not be too familiar with you, each of you, what you do. Could you do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so together we are Phoenix Sisters Cosplay. That's why we show up in so many co-interviews. That's our dynamic duo name there.
Yes.
That's a
So
cool name.
thank
Thank
you.
you. We should tell the story of how we got it before we go further.
Yeah. Tell me about the name.
So when we first started talking, we had met like once or twice, and we first started talking because I had a green Phoenix suit, Crayle had a dark Phoenix suit, and I was like, hey, we're gonna be at the Superman celebration together. We should do a Phoenix versus Dark Phoenix photo shoot. And so we started talking, and as we're talking more, we realized we have a lot in common.
But the creepy part was we noticed, I don't even remember who noticed first. We'd post like, sorry, I'm not answering very much today. I have a migraine. And it was always on the same days. And that's common if you live close together because, oh, well, barometric pressure and how bright the
Right.
sun is and stuff. But I lived in Colorado at an over a mile high elevation. And Kelly lived in Wisconsin, not that far above sea level. We were not in the same weather patterns, pressure.
Nothing. Not even the same time zone.
Not even the same time zone. And we were still
Perhaps you are
completely
sharing some kind of psychological bond, like the Navi or something.
exactly.
It could be that.
And
Well,
the thing about G. Oh,
I
sorry.
love cosplay, and I just think it's such a fun and inspirational thing. And I wanted to take a little bit of time and sort of get to know you both a little bit and kind of what inspired you to do it. Like, can you remember what was the first cosplay you did and what sort of was your inspiration to try it?
You go first.
Okay. So the first cosplay I did was in Metropolis, Illinois, at the Superman celebration. And the short of it was that I had dragged my sister to the Superman celebration, and we're walking down the street. And so I had always loved dressing up in costume as a kid. I'd always loved superheroes and all that stuff, but I kind of kept it inside because I was like, well, this isn't the cool thing right now, especially for a girl. I know, but so when I went to
I get it.
Metropolis, my sister and I are walking down the street, and I see someone in costume, and I look at my sister, I'm like, you can do that here? And it's not Halloween, and it's not during a costume contest. What? I'm like, okay, Michelle, we need to go to a mall. I know there's a mall nearby. We need to go to a mall, and I'm gonna put together a costume. And my sister's looking at me like I'm crazy. She's like, we just got here. We literally just found parking. I'm like, nope, you do not understand. This guy is in a full costume, and this is what I'm gonna do now. So I dragged my sister to a mall, my long suffering sister, and I got a swimsuit, I got boots, I got a Hannah Montana wig. This was 15 years ago. So those were everywhere. You could not go into a Claire's without finding them. I think Claire's are out of business. Hannah Montana is
Sure, I know
nothing.
that stuff. I have a daughter. Well, she's 25 now, but
Yep.
we know Hannah Montana.
Oh yeah. So then I, go back in my full mall costume, and I got fishnets, of course, a black canary. And I am going down the street, and people were so welcoming. I was having conversations with cosplayers. I'm like, these are my people. Where have these people been all my life? I belong. This is it. And so I left, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do now. And apparently it's what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, because it's been 15 years, and I just keep I keep getting more elaborate. I
Yeah,
keep
good
doing
for you.
more. I keep adding more to my plate.
Crayle, how about you? When did you tell us about your first one?
Oh, so I'm a workaholic, and I've been a workaholic since I was a preteen. and I had a manager at one of my 3 or 4 at the time jobs who was like, you're gonna kill yourself. And we became close because one of my other jobs was I babysat his daughter. She's a little older. It was like driving her to places while her parents were at work, like that type of babysitting. So she
Right.
was a preteen. um and he was like, you're gonna work yourself to death. You have to learn how to relax. You have to learn how to have fun. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll like watch TV at your house sometimes or whatever. Um, and the show we had been watching was Arrow, and this friend and his wife and his daughter all cosplayed together. And I knew that it was important to them and they had fun with it. But I was like, well, I'm really glad that you guys have fun, but I would feel weird if I did it, which is crazy to me to remember now because I cosplay all
How
the
long
time
ago?
now.
How long ago we talking?
2013 or 2014. So about 8 years ago. It came up in my memories recently, my first convention. So that's what happened. Is not only was I like a workaholic all the time, but then I had like a really, really upsetting emotional, like several events, one right after the other. And they were like, we're taking you to a convention. The main guy from Arrow, Stephen Amell, is going to be there. That's the show we had been watching together. I got
Right.
really into it.
Yeah, good
And
show.
I was like, huh?
It's a good show.
Oh, it is. Most of it.
Yeah, as a Black Canary fan, I have feelings.
Lots of feelings. But I was like, okay, well, I'll bring something so that I can wear like something that's like a nod to the show for my photo with Stephen Amell, but I'm probably not going to do costume all weekend. And I got there, and on Friday night, I was like, everyone is having so much fun. Nobody's going to look at me like I'm weird. There's people walking around in inflatable Barney costumes hugging people. Like, no, so I threw on, I wanted to be Felicity Smoke for the picture of the picture I was going to take with Stephen Amell. So I had a pencil skirt and a Star Labs shirt from the episode where Barry Allen is first introduced,
Very
and he
cool.
accidentally friction lights Felicity's shirt on fire, and she has to wear a Star Labs tee.
Oh,
And I
got it.
wasn't planning on going that far with it. So that night when we went to Walmart for snacks, I was like, I have to get some costume glasses. And I got into it. And so I was wearing heels and a pencil skirt and a Star Labs t-shirt and fake glasses, and people were recognizing me. There was one very close teen, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is so great. Like, you form an instant bond with people. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, really. There's so many cool things about cosplay, but one of them is fans instantly they like instantly want to be your friend, right? It's a little bit, I say this, I'm being serious. It's a little bit like a rock star kind of thing where you go,
Yep.
oh my gosh, I freaking love it. Kind of doesn't even really matter what it. I love Hermione Granger, and they just are so into it, right? And one of the questions I'd want to ask you, I'll ask both this question. What would you recommend to somebody who says, well, cosplay is a really supportive community, but I'm not sure how to get into it? Like for somebody that's new and starting out, how would you recommend them to start trying cosplay?
Well, if you're looking on how do I even put a costume together
Well, I
before
guess
you,
maybe two things. How do they make it? And then how to get into the community.
well, if you want to know how to make it or just where to buy stuff, because you can buy a costume, that's fine. Like, role play is its own part of the art form of cosplay. You can reach
Oh,
out to
interesting.
a cosplayer online, and you want to be polite about it because you are asking people for free labor, but there are a lot of cosplay channels like our show, Cosplay Cafe. We have a podcast that is on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media, and you can reach out to us and say, I want to get started. This is what I want. How do I do it? And we will brainstorm it with you. It is a very easy to get into community, and so starting right from I want to make or buy my first costume, find a cosplayer on the internet who's said, hey, ask me.
Yep.
Yeah, like a mentor.
And
Yeah,
then
that's a
getting
good.
into the, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll put the links underneath. That's Cosplay Cafe.
Excellent.
Okay, and
Perfect, thank
go
you.
ahead, Kelly. I want to hear your answer.
Okay, so Crayle covered making it and getting advice on that. Also, there's a ton of tutorials online. So whatever character you want to do, look up how to make whatever, and you can probably find a tutorial. As far as getting into the community, if you know you're going to be going to an upcoming con, most cons have there's some sort of community group around it that's unofficial. So if you search like Facebook or whatever your social media of choice is, you can find a group that's dedicated to people like basically bonding together and planning photo shoot groups. So like that's where I found a lot of people where they're planning like a whole X-Men group or a Batman group or whatever, just where you can find people to pair up with. And it's really fun to pair up or team up with people in your fandom, get pictures together. It doesn't even have to be anything super elaborate. It doesn't have to be professional level, or just finding people who are in your fandom to walk around with and getting in those groups. It's, and a lot of times, like, so I just went to C2E2 recently. There's a really great group for C2E2 and people who go to C2E2, and there were people posting in groups saying, hey, this is going to be my first ever con, any tips? And a lot of people were very welcoming to them, saying, hey, you know, look me up, say hi to me, what are you going to be wearing, I'll look for you. And there's a lot of ways.
Yeah, in Indiana there's a group called Indiana Cosplayers, and people talk about what convention they're going to be at, what costumes they're going to do. Hey, I'm in search of a photographer. Hey, I'm a photographer who wants to do special effects cosplay stuff. Like anything to do with cosplay, it's people who are at least in your same state, so your state might have a group like that or a couple.
Yeah, that's a good one. I appreciate you sharing that. And I agree with what you said about the you know, the conventions always have some kind of event, right? And you can go right there and meet everybody. And I'll just tell you a quick anecdote. You might think this is sort of charming. So, you know, my wife, she's Chinese, and they don't have any kind of thing like, you know, Comic Cons or really any kind of cultural events that are similar to that. So the first time when she went to this is Baltimore, she went there and they had it was the contest. And it was the first time that she realized, hey, wait a minute, these are civilians that are dressing up like it's like a thing, right? And it was like, it clicked. She's like, you got to be kidding me. And she runs into the group and like gets her picture taken with the group, right? Because, and of course, like all cosplayers, they're super welcoming and have fun, you know, like I'll just quick tell the viewers, if you are at the convention and you're not having fun yet, go find where the cosplayers are, because they always know how to have a good time. That's where the crazy people are going to be. You're about to have a blast. Do you have any kind of favorite conventions or events that you go to? Like, what are your favorites?
C2E2 has been a favorite for me, even though it's really big, so it can be intimidating and it's a lot of walking, but I do love it. It's also really fun because it's big. But we really loved SoulCon when we did it last year at Central Illinois Con. And then gosh, some of the cons I've been to, I aren't in business anymore, so that's been kind of sad. Some cons didn't survive the pandemic.
Yeah, we lost a couple, that's for sure. How about you, Crayle? Do you have a favorite?
It's hard for me to choose a favorite, partially because I go to a lot of conventions because one of my jobs is Pokeballs by Crayle.
Right, we got to make sure let's talk about that too.
So I make Pokemon themed art, mostly Pokeball dioramas, and I'm gonna send Tim pictures to show you all, obviously.
Yeah, they're cool.
But, so I make Pokemon themed dioramas and like 3-dimensional art. And so I go as a cosplayer sometimes, and then I go as a vendor sometimes. And there are some conventions that are just really great to their vendors. And so one of those, if you're looking into being a vendor, is Memphis Comic Expo in Memphis. It's usually around September. And also PopCon Indie is good to be a vendor. They treat you very well. Also, they have a lot of programming. Last year, PopCon Indie had their own version of the Squid Games, where there were people out in the hallway, like playing, like foam dart tag and stuff like that, laying on the floor. I didn't have time to join because I was working that convention, but they have so much programming, so they're a really good one. And another one that's really good, both in like the programming they have there and treats their vendors really well, is in Elkhart, Indiana. It's called the Hall of Heroes convention.
Right, that one I've heard of.
Yeah, so Lou Ferrigno goes almost every year, and you know, it's grown so much. They, I think, doubled the size of venue they went to last year, and it was still packed the whole time. But it has that small convention feel where everybody runs into everybody and says hi to everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah, I personally love cosplayers, and I'll tell you just one more quick convention anecdote, which is that, you know, the rookie publishers, or sometimes people that haven't thought the whole thing through, they sometimes sort of complain about the cosplayers, right? Like, well, I'm here for the wrestlers, or whatever their beef is. Each person's different, but they've sort of lost sight of something that's important. And here's what it is. We all go to these things because we're looking to have fun and to experience something that's a little different than the regular day, right? And to me, and as you know, I'm a small publisher, like a pretty small one. So I'm always trying to find a way to draw readers in. So what we do is we have a thing, we call it the Cosplay Aid Station. And I'll tell you how we got this idea. But it's things like we have water bottles while they last, but they usually go pretty fast. But it's like things like duct tape. We got glue in there. There's a needle and thread. There's a little bit of white touch-up paint. Like there's all things that maybe a cosplayer might have to use to monkey with something. And we kind of did it for fun, but here's what happened. Oh, and there was like a free sticker too. It's a little robot sticker. You guys like robots?
we do,
Yes.
Yeah, I figured
especially
you might
ones who
say
look
that.
like Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, right. I was hoping you would say that. So, but what would happen is the cosplayers would come up, right? And they would say, "Oh, hey, man, that's really great." Most people, we really didn't use any of the repairs, but it was a neat concept. But they get a sticker, and then I would say, "Hey, do you mind if I take your photo?" Because most cosplayers are pretty cool as long as you ask. We'll talk
Yep.
about there are certain rules, guys, of things that you should do and not do with cosplayers. So maybe after this question, we'll go to that. But I would say, "Can I take a picture of you?" And they always say, "Yeah." And they come, and you know, maybe sometimes they might buy a book, but even really, it's really just about PR, right? And I
Oh
take
yeah.
a picture of them. And of course, usually in the picture of them, my logo's in the picture. So everybody wins, right? The cosplayer got some exposure. You get to meet somebody cool, the whole bit. So I recommend to any publisher, if you're not getting enough traffic or something, you ought to try have some cosplayers come by. But since I mentioned that there's kind of a code of etiquette for dealing with the cosplayers, could I ask you guys, let's share that with some of our viewers and those of us that, and you know, I'll probably learn something too. What would you say is the code of etiquette for cosplayers?
Well, you already mentioned one of the big ones is ask permission before taking a photo. The point, like 1B to that, is don't ask cosplayers while they're eating. A lot of cosplayers, either it's hard to eat because of your costume or because you're going from photo shoot to photo shoot or things like that. It's hard to squeeze in time to eat.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, even cosplayers who aren't offended, who don't think you're being rude, they need that time to replenish.
Yeah.
So
I will say though, if they're already posed and someone else is taking a picture of them and you're walking by and you snap a quick picture, that's fine.
yeah, they consented to getting their photo taken in that moment, in that pose. They were ready for it. Like,
It's fine.
yeah, that's fine. It's no like sneaky take a picture of someone while they're making a weird face, or a
Don't
photo of
abuse
their lower
don't
half
abuse it.
only,
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
don't do that.
And if you take a picture with them and you want to like put your arm around them, the polite thing to do is to ask permission, just because some people have a
Right.
thing about personal space.
Yeah. Or you can do the
It-
not quite touching thing. I see some people do that, and
Yep.
that's
Yep.
probably a smart
Here's
thing.
here's a script. If you want to put your arm around someone you're taking a photo with, but you find it awkward to word requests, is you put your arm out and say, "May I?" and lean a little bit.
Yep.
That is the code. It's two
That's
words.
fine.
Most people know what you mean, and it's fast. It's easy to remember. May I? There you are.
Yep.
Okay,
And most
great.
people have no problem, but some people do have issues with touching.
Or some people might be wearing
Right.
latex body paint or something like
You
that.
could smear it. You could smear the paint or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So
That's why it's always better to ask.
Okay.
Oh, the other bit of cosplay etiquette is if you notice somebody carrying a really large prop in time, if you could just step out of their way. Like, I'm not saying that they're more important than you or that they should enjoy the con more than you, make way, roll out the red carpet. It's just a little bit that, you know, they're going to entertain a lot of people with this big recognizable thing. The least you can do to help other people enjoy is just scoot out of the way a little bit. Like, take the next elevator if they're trying to get on, something like that, if they've got a big heavy prop.
The cosplayer is usually trying to be mindful of their space, and they should be.
And they should be. That's the other side of that for the cosplayer, is don't just walk around hitting people with your prop, and, you know, don't take your prop into a crowded vendor booth either. Like, ask if there's a place you can set it down if you're worried about hitting someone's art with your prop.
Same with your big wings.
And your wings.
Yeah, I've seen some of the big wing versions. Yeah, for real. I said to one of my booth people once, if it was a musician, and I tell you why I say this, because what it was like two cat women in there. It was in the black leather kind of spandex, and then there was a Batman, and they were all Batmen and Batwomen of color, which is kind of cool. Right.
Nice.
They were doing, but it was like orchestrated poses, like it was like Charlie's Angels and stuff. And so he was going to run up and trying to get in the picture. And I said, I don't know, man. Look, these are like orchestrated poses. You wouldn't, if that was a guy playing the guitar, you wouldn't do that. I said, this is supposed to look a certain way. I said, so don't go into it. And then, of course, it was cool. We took pictures of it and it looks amazing, right? Like they were doing it in, you know, they had it all planned out basically. So yeah, there's certain rules around it. And it's, you know, as long as you've got basic respect and can act like a human being is really the bottom line of it.
And I've had people, like, when I'm doing that with like a few people and we're doing poses, people will wait their turn and then ask to get in. And that's acceptable. That's
really flattering, actually.
Yeah.
When people line up to be like, now can I jump in your photo? Like,
yeah.
I would imagine cosplayer's day if you form a little line to get to them.
Just
I would imagine
don't
that's
photobomb if they're doing the
I bet you that's a really fun experience when somebody recognizes what you're doing and they really attach it to it. Like, what's that like when you have, like, say if it's a little kid or who, doesn't matter who it is, and like, wow, I love, you know, whichever cosplay you're doing at the time. What's that feeling like?
The best. So addictive. So my favorite is the little kids when they just run up to you and gosh, so last year at Pre-Comic Book Day, I was Black Widow, and so I was meeting the kids, and a little girl came up to me after she met me, then she came running back to me, gave me a big hug. She's like, "You're my favorite."
One of the other ones that's really nice is when you wear an obscure costume, you're going to get recognized less, but the people who do recognize you appreciate it so much. One of my earliest cosplays was Liberty Bell from the Justice Society of America.
Wow, look at that.
Major all-star like superhero team in a serial, I believe.
Crayle, that's amazing already.
So she's making a bit of a resurgence because she was in DC Superhero Girls, aimed at younger girls, as one of the teachers. But for a while, not a lot of people recognized her, and a lot of people who did recognize me when I was Liberty Bell, one, they would say, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen a Liberty Bell cosplay before," and that made me feel nice. But the other thing is, because those comics had their heyday a while back, a lot of older attendees who are starting to feel like the trends are passing them by a little bit suddenly get excited, like when they first started reading comic books and going to conventions, and it's nice to see someone who's a lot older than you suddenly feel like a little kid again because you brought something into the present from the past. So doing an old costume sometimes just feels really good.
Yeah, I would, you know, you've got some really deep knowledge. So we're going to come back. I want to circle in on your creative projects too. But one quick question that's slightly off topic. So are you guys collectors, or how do you attain, it takes a good level of geek knowledge to accomplish this, right? Where do you attain your geek knowledge?
Well, so a little bit of a collector, bit, but I dabble. Gotcha. It's kind of hard to tell. So I'm not a huge, my wallet doesn't let me be a huge collector.
I know that feeling.
But basically, and I started later in life collecting comics. So I started collecting comics when I around the time I got into cosplay. Like I had collected a few before then, but I started
What
when I
types of,
was
can I ask you, what types of comics do you like?
mostly superheroes. I'm a little more of a DC girl,
I like DC.
but I love Marvel too. But I do skew more towards superheroes, though. I've been getting into pirate indie comics
Oh,
lately.
nice. Sure. Yeah. Can't go
Yeah,
wrong
I've
there.
read a few. No Man, what is that called?
Oh gosh, I knew until you asked me.
No Man. Oh my gosh, what is it?
You.
We'll send you a message because
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
on
yeah.
myself.
We can fix that in post. I can put a little scroll on
Yes,
that. We
yes.
call it the
But
editor's note because we do that a lot. You think of it later, you know.
Yeah.
but oh, and also Fables. Fables is
I
one
love
of my.
Fables.
I
Yeah.
love Fables so much.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, you picked some great stuff.
But yeah, so and Black Canary is obviously my favorite, so I've been following her a lot, and like I kind of just pick characters I like, and then I'll follow them around from series to series. But also, if I really like a creator, I'll follow them around. But one of my favorite comic writers is Mark Waid, so I
Oh,
cannot afford to keep up with
sure.
him.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. He's Kingdom Come, right? He wrote. That's one of my favorites by him.
He wrote Kingdom Come, but he's also
He
prolific.
writes 10 million things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got the opportunity to interview him, I think last year
You know
with
what?
my
I
friend
think I might have read that. I think I might have read that
uh-huh,
one.
with my friend Tyler
I'm trying to
on
remember if
his
I'm trying to remember if I was following you yet then or not.
that was before we were Facebook friends, but
Oh,
Bailey
okay.
probably
Maybe it
reshared it.
wasn't what I was thinking then.
But so it was with my friend Tyler on his Krypton Report
I
podcast.
did reshare that one.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
So,
It
Gotcha.
was amazing. I almost cried because I've been such a fan of his, and I just got really emotional because he really inspires me. And I actually have quotes from his writing advice from that interview on my wall.
What? That's
To
really cool.
actually,
See,
let
look,
me,
there's something I would really dig. If you want to grab it, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let me grab it because he
Go
gave
ahead.
some
Yeah.
amazing writing advice. I'm like, that's gonna hang on my wall.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
And we can share it with the viewers.
yeah. I'll answer mine while she.
Yeah, Crayle, you can
out
answer. Why
there,
don't you do
like,
that now? We'll come
So
back.
building up my knowledge base, like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with reading a comic that starts with whatever character you like and just looking up on Wikipedia what happened before. Comics
Right.
have been spanning.
There's
for
no
so much
wrong way.
longer.
There's no wrong way to collect comics. I bet you're gonna say something like, there's really no wrong way to do cosplay.
There's not.
Absolutely not.
But on top of that, like for me, so
Wait. There's one wrong way to do cosplay. If you are going to be elitist and you're going to body shame other cosplayers, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's the wrong way to cosplay. The wrong way to collect. Be like, oh, I've been reading since
that too.
Whatever year.
Yeah.
If you're going to gatekeep, you can't sit with us.
You can't sit with us.
I appreciate you saying that. We say that in the indie comics community too, because, well, actually, Crayle knows this part because she's also the big supporter of the indie community, and we call it Big Tent. Like we're not always going to agree on everything, but we can at least try to get along while we're here, and try to support each other.
Yeah, my stuff ranges so far back and forth. So I've got your basic. It's not basic. I've got a lot of superhero stuff that is very famous, but then I also really like weird offbeat genre stuff.
What do you tell us some of your weird ones? I want to hear those.
Okay, so Water Wars Chronicles.
I need to borrow that.
You really
or
do.
actually, I just need to buy my own copy. I need to buy my own copy.
Right.
I will do that.
So
also, I need your cryptid book. That's
it's live right now. That's the new one, and it's with my buddy Erwin too.
I love cryptids so much. I need to get my squonk. I need to show off my squonk.
The new
is there a squonk in your cryptid book?
What it'll be, I'll tell you real quick, and because I really appreciate you asking, and thank you for the natural segue, Crayle. But I want to make sure we talk to you guys the most. But it'll be 4 books. The first one is the Men in Black, the Aliens, 2 Kinds, and Bigfoot. Then the second one is Loch Ness Monster and Mothman. Then the third one is Yeti and the Return of Sci-Fi Bigfoot. And then the last issue is like a battle royale. It's a big fight with every cryptid.
But no squonk.
No. Well, I didn't
I
write
need
it
to
yet.
write a Squonk book.
Maybe I can filter in a cameo or something.
Squeeze one
Because
in
I'm
without
only on the
cutting
first
out.
book. This is the first book's done. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's being lettered right now, but it's there's 3 volumes coming, so this is likely 2 years worth of material.
Crayle's gonna show you my Squonk.
Okay, cool. I want to see it. And you got your writing tips?
I've got my writing tips, and this is Squeaky the Squonk. My son named
Adorable.
him.
Very nice.
Yeah, Squonks are my favorite. I want to save them though. I want to track one down and tell him he's beautiful, so he doesn't have to die from crying. Okay, but yeah, so here's the writing tips from Mark Waid. These are invaluable, and I treasure the time that I got to speak to him. And okay, so the first one is, a plot is not a story. A plot is a framework for a story. So you can have a plot that's like a Swiss watch, that's beautiful, hangs together in its construction, but people don't remember the plot. What people remember is the moments when your blood is up, the moments when you're engaged and your emotions are excited. So you can have the best constructed story in the world, but if it doesn't move people and engage their emotions, then it may as well be a crossword puzzle.
Huh. That's really good.
Yeah. This is why he's one of the best. And then every scene in your story has to be connected by one of 3 words. Therefore, however, and occasionally meanwhile.
Wow, I like that. I'll be able to use that myself.
I know.
I should really also print this out to help me with my editing. So I'm a fiction editor also. Kelly's
Yeah.
one of my clients. So she wrote 2 books now in the superhero romance genre. As far as romance goes, they're not like over the top sappy. The action drives the romance drives the action.
Sure,
So,
sure. So, and
which,
your campaign just finished, or it's still going now?
So the campaign just finished, but the thing about Indiegogo is once a campaign is finished, you can still contribute to it. And you basically, when you're contributing to it, you're ordering on demand for any of the perks that are currently available. Or if you're contributing to it and the perks aren't available yet, you're getting in and you'll get all the perks. So with the campaign is to make an audiobook version of Scorcher, the first book. So I will give you the spiel about Scorcher. Basically, these are part of a series. So Scorcher, the first book, is a redemption story, first and foremost. It is about Aiden, who is a woman who was raised by this shady, shadowy organization that takes in kids with superpowers and teaches them to use their superpowers to commit crimes. And Aiden is at a point in her life where she's realizing that may not be the life she wants. And then she runs into a guy who is a cop and she starts to fall for him. So it's kind of a situation where opposites are attracting and their lives are about to clash.
It sounds really good. Kelly, I'm going to put a link below so viewers can check that out. You know, I wish you all the luck with that project. And now you mentioned an audio book too, which is interesting to me. Can I ask you a quick question about that?
Yes.
Okay. So why audiobook of all the different things?
So I feel really passionately about audiobooks because that's the way I do most of my reading now, because I spend a lot of time in the car, I'm on the go a lot, and I also feel like audiobook is a format that can elevate a story with the right narrator. And in my case, I have because the story alternates between the point of view of 2 main characters, one male and one female, I always knew I wanted to have 2 narrators.
Okay.
And I knocked it out of the park with my narrators. They are just so good. So the whole point of this Indiegogo for this audiobook was to pay them what they were worth.
Oh. And how did you choose your voice actors? Is Crayle on there?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not one of the voice actors. I have just been one of the sort of like behind the scenes producers for some of her perks and marketing. Like,
gotcha. And you're the editor too.
Yes, I am the editor now. I'm helping her revise the first book, and I edited the second book. So
okay,
is
well,
the first book
I'd like to ask you an editing question then, because I edit my own material, and many people have said to me things like, "Hey, to get to the next level, you need a professional editor." So tell us a little bit about your editing services and what types, and tell us what you do.
Well, I primarily focus on fantasy and sci-fi fiction. I only do fiction. Nonfiction editing is a very different beast than fiction editing, and they both are difficult in their own very different ways. And I don't have the passion for the nonfiction work that I would need to do that I have for working with my fiction artists. Storytelling is an art, right?
Right.
So for my fiction authors, um so I offer like various levels of packages, and most freelance editors do. If you're like, look, I want to know, are my transitions good? Is my grammar good? Did I describe a
Right.
scene well enough that you can picture it? That's basic copy editing. Then
Right.
there's in-depth copy editing is what I call in my layers, which is I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you what my impressions are. I'm going to tell you like chapter by chapter how important or not important I thought. Like I'm going to really critique the way you told the story in addition to giving you those grammar and feedback on what you actually put on the page. I'm going to tell you what I think maybe is missing also. And then I have one author that I do developmental edits with, which is I work with him while he's midway through his manuscript, and we are on the phone a lot talking through how he wants to get this character from point B to point W without losing the audience and things like that. And that's
Involved.
it's very involved, but really the thing that people don't know about editing unless they've ever done it is you're kind of playing therapist too. Not for every author.
Yes.
But
Yes.
authors putting their work out there are in a very vulnerable state. Like most authors, especially with fiction, they're putting a piece of themselves out there
Right.
for the entire public,
It
and
can
it
be a
is
little, it
your
can be a little
job.
scary.
Right, and it's your job to tell them all the things they did wrong. So one of the things you have to do also is build them up about, yes, people are going to care about your story. No, you are not bad at this because you made mistakes. That is literally what drafts are for.
Right.
Like you have to do some emotional propping up with a lot of editing clients. And I mean,
Sure. Well,
it's
that's a skill
possible
too, right? To be able to say things like that.
it's possible to be an editor and not offer that and put boundaries in place to not do that. But my passion is working with indie and self-published writers,
This
and
sounds
indie and
terrific. It
self-published
sounds terrific.
writers need it more. They don't have an agent doing this for them, and so I'm happy to do that. I still
She's
have
wonderful
boundaries.
at it.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
wonderful
But hey,
at
we
it.
should talk further about that off the air, and I'll tell you why I come by it honestly, which is I haven't worked with an editor, and people have pointed out to me one of the ways to strengthen your brand and to distill your essence to become better at your craft is to bring in outside influences and to perform collaboratively. And in my case, I've worked with something like 23 artists, and there's still only been one writer. What's that tell you? That either as a small publisher, I'm either not letting writers in, which there is a little bit about that, or maybe I have some, I don't want to say a block to it, but I'll tell you why. And you answered it perfectly, Crayle, and here's why. Because to me, when you say, the grammar and the basic editing and the proofreading and those are the elements that really the writer should have already understood. But you're right, they often don't. So in fairness, but what you're doing is the hard part, which is the revising and, maybe changing the order of the story and maybe didn't like the motivation of the character. What you're describing is much harder and more what I would think creators need.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of the most difficult conversations to have with authors as an editor is when it starts to become apparent that a character is a self-insert. Because it's like, I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying that the reader shouldn't be looking at this going, I'm a stranger to this person and I can already tell what they want in their life. As the author, it takes you out of the story. But that's a very difficult conversation to have, because when a character becomes a self-insert, whether it was on purpose or not on purpose, that's even more personal than fiction writing already is. So
Gotcha.
you have to find an editor that you have a good compatible communication style with, because the interpersonal conversations are just already going to be a challenge. That's the nature of the work. So not every editor is for you, and editors out there, not every client is for you. You need to learn what communication style you can work with also, so that you're not pulling your hair out going, how do I make them understand without hurting their feelings? How do I make them respect my time? How do I feel like I'm able to really communicate the best of my work, what I could do to help them? So finding a compatible communication style is very important.
By the way,
Hopefully
viewers,
you share,
when I
Blaine.
was launching the cryptid campaign, Crayle was kind enough to take a look at it and alert me to there was a couple mistakes in it, and we managed to get everything patched up before it went to the live. So
She's good at that.
she's telling you the truth, and thank you very much for doing that. That was very kind of you.
Oh, that was no problem. Okay, so editing is a little different for me too, because I have 7 years worth of like in-house in agency marketing, like digital marketing experience. So I'm looking at this going, okay, I have training from looking at numbers back there. What type of communication do people understand right away versus what kind of communication do people have to dig to process, and who's going to bother to do the digging?
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you did that for us. So, hey, we were talking about our inspirations. Let's take a quick pass at that question. So I'll jump back to Kelly. So you got is it 2 books now?
2 books now. Yep.
So when you first were starting to write,
Mhm.
who inspired you? Or, I mean, it could be anything, I suppose. What inspired you to say, hey, I want to make a book now?
So that first book started out as, in its very, very early incarnation, was an X-Men fan fiction. And then I took out a few pieces that I really liked and grew it into something completely different. Like, if you look, you can still see the bones of
That's
X-Men fan
interesting.
fiction there, I'm sure. And then I started writing it, and all along I will be very open about this. I even did a panel on fan fiction and its importance to culture for our multiverse fundraiser this past year, because I feel pretty passionate about fan fiction and why it's important.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic. But so once I started writing the original story with no traces of X-Men, and that was all my original world building, I started putting it up there on the site called fictionpress.com, where you can just put up your original fiction for free. It's kind of similar to the fan fiction sites out there. And I had quite a few people telling me I should make it a book, I should make it into a book. And so that really encouraged me, and I got just some really early good feedback. I also got some constructive feedback by putting it out there and just putting it out there in the world. And that really encouraged me to look into, at first I started looking into the process of querying and going that route and trying to get an agent, before I finally realized that, okay, superhero fiction at the time, this was before even that first Iron Man movie came out, I was like, I couldn't even find agents that covered superhero fiction because it wasn't a recognized genre for novels. Like, obviously comics, yes.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, if I can't find an agent who represents it, I can't even find an agent to send my query letters to, really.
yeah.
So finally I was like, okay, you know what? It's a real niche thing. I'm just going to put it out there as an indie book. I'm not really going to make money out of it. I'm just going to do it for fun. But really what inspired me was my love of comics and superheroes and
What a
writing fan
great
fiction.
inspiration. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you described it in the perfect way. And what I mean by that, if you talk about the love of making it is sometimes enough, and the indie community, boy, that's probably the perfect audience for your book to go to, I'd bet. I bet you they'll love it.
That's what I think.
Man, I wish you every success with that.
Me
Thank you.
So
too.
let's jump
Thank
over
you.
to Crayle. Crayle, you're a super creative person, and the more I learn about you, the more impressed I am. So I wanted to take a minute and talk about your Pokemon connection, which you have
Let's do it.
a connection to the collectible community too, which is not only are you making something, it's you got a little bit of a business there. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Collectors are absolutely like my people. So the slogan of the Pokemon franchise is "Gotta catch 'em all." And it started out, there were 151 Pokemon, and it was possible. It actually is still possible now, but it takes up way more of your life. But it was possible to collect either via video game or trading card game or figures all the Pokemon, right? And I moved around a lot as a kid. Moved school to school, house to house. Like, collecting was very difficult for me to do, but the goal being there, like, so Pokemon spoke to me, one, because it was entertaining. I mean, you've got these colorful creatures that can change and work with people, and
Yeah.
the story was aimed at kids at the time that I was a kid, right? But I got back in touch with that, like, from actually a making standpoint, because I was still, in my mind, I was trying to collect, like, collect by at least seeing art of all the Pokemon. And I mean, I didn't always have like a game system. I didn't grow up super rich, so it's not like we could update my system just because the Pokemon games migrated from
Right,
the
right.
the Game Boy to the DS or whichever generation that was.
So I'm going to
To
jump
your
in here. So you're a gamer too, I assume.
A little bit. So I am
Yeah.
what you would call a casual gamer. Mobile games,
Gotcha.
children's games, Animal Crossing, stuff like that. I mean, I
Oh,
play some.
Animal Crossing is a hit here. You're hitting all the key elements.
Yeah. So I don't play anything competitive, like even Pokemon. I've been playing for over 20 years, and I don't join any of the like mobile leagues. I don't do any of that because I'm trying to relax. But finally I saw some art. It was on Tumblr. It was, what are Pokemon doing in their Pokeballs all day? Which is a question people have been asking
That's yeah,
forever.
yeah, right,
And the
right.
way this artist portrayed Pikachu powering his little TV that he was watching, I was like, I could do something like this 3-dimensional. And I thought I invented the idea. I was like, I can take acrylic spheres already that they have for the DIY Christmas ornaments. That's
Yeah,
the most commonly asked question I get from people who actually look at my art, by the way, is where do you get the Pokeball part? I make it out
yeah.
of large size DIY acrylic Christmas ornaments that you rotate 90 degrees.
Absolutely.
Um,
Let's show some images to the viewers here. And these things are terrific. If you have a Pokemon collector in your life, they will love this as a gift or any kind of collectible souvenir. So man, got to recommend that too. And what a creative idea. I think that like
I
did
did
you
not invent it, by the way. I started looking up diorama tutorials. I
right,
started with model train diorama tutorials because those are the diorama OGs. They're
right,
the
right.
original gangsters of diorama building. And then
Sure.
found on the side, make your own DIY Pokeball terrarium. And I was like, no.
Wow.
But
But yours are so involved and
Yeah, they're very
incredible
detailed.
and creative.
well, because I'm able to do it as my job. So anybody who can make one, if you're looking at it and going, wow, this didn't look professional. Well, if you're not a professional, then of course it's not going to look professional. So I've made over 1,000 Pokemon dioramas now in the
I'm
last
tired
4
just
years.
thinking of that.
What?
So
That's
many.
amazing. That's amazing.
Last year alone, I made my business has doubled 3 years in a row. And so last year alone, I made 500 handmade items.
No kidding. Wow. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I'm a workaholic.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I mentioned this before, but I mean, you're very creative, and you've got a lot of, do you know JD Rosario by any chance? He's a
I know the
comic publisher.
name.
He's on all the
Um,
podcasts and stuff, and he's Unstoppable Comics, and he calls it the spinning plates. And I think you both are
Sounds right.
examples of this. Yeah, both of you are, because it's things like you say, hey, well, I'm going to be a cosplayer, right? But in reality, what it is cosplayer, writer, creator, podcaster, entrepreneur, traveler. Like there's you got so
marketer.
many things in the marketer. Yeah, they're all spinning plates in the air, right? And it's more than just, it's not really a sliver of one thing that you do. It's like you have to do 21 things all pretty well just to get it off the ground. So
I was
let's jump
just
back.
saying today, I was like, why can't I ever just have a dream and not do it? It requires so much energy. But every time I come up with a dream,
You
then
chase
Want to make
after
it
it.
real.
then I make it real.
And then I'm the same way. And then one of us is like, I want to make this happen. And the other one is an enabler. And we're just like, okay, I could help with this part or that part. You let me know when you're ready
We're
for me.
so
And
tangled up in each other's creativity.
That's, hey, you're like Simon and Garfunkel, or any of the great musical collabs.
Yes. Except I'm tone deaf. And
Uh,
yet I sing on every episode of Cosplay Cafe and not just midway through the episode.
some art is for the joy of making it. You enjoy the
well,
singing. I
let
would
me
so
ask you
much
this, because
rather.
you guys have so many inspirations and so many creative spinning plates. I want to ask you this question. Ready? I'll start with Kelly. In
Yes.
5 years, where do you see this going? Where do you see, what's Kelly going to be doing in 5 years? Say if all the goals come true.
Oh, if all the goals come true, that would be exciting. Well, so another of our passion projects is the Multiverse fundraiser, which is we do it once a year. It's a virtual convention and charity fundraiser. So in 5 years, I'm hoping that's going to be even bigger than it is now and raising a lot of money for good causes. Every year we choose a different cause. I'm hoping I will be done with my third book, which
Nice.
would finish my trilogy. And
Awesome.
hopefully I will have all 3 books in audiobook format. That would be my goal. And then hopefully we'll just have done some more fun cosplay stuff, because I keep coming up with ideas of, like, tomorrow we're doing a big Gotham photo shoot partially to celebrate the fact that I've been cosplaying for 15 years. So I just came up with this idea. It was like, hey, it would be really fun to get a bunch of Gotham characters together. And now we have do we have 30 people signed up for it?
Yeah,
That's
I think it's
insane.
Wow. That is cool.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really fun. But I have other photo shoots on my bucket list that I'm gonna slowly check off.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, man, I wish you every blessing in pursuing and achieving those goals. So let's swing it over to Crayle. Same question, right? So 5 years, and man, you got all kinds of spinning plates. It's hard to even tell which horse of yours might come in first, I guess we'd say. You might be my editor in 5 years.
Well, a lot of my goals for the next 5 years involve finding ways to consolidate some of my stuff. Actually, so speaking of the Multiverse fundraiser, we've been toying around with the idea of creating like an affiliated convention that's
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's
made
on there.
to support turning that into a bigger nonprofit.
Yeah,
And then
branch
also
it out.
conventions, there's a lot of ways for artists and co-creators and people like that to make their own money. So the convention, I would really hope would support the infrastructure for the big charity fundraiser every January. But then I could bring all of my co-creative collaborators into one place where we can support each other into making money off of our art.
So she's talking about an in-person convention because we are insane.
We inspire each other. That's our biggest inspiration. We talk about everything we dream of doing and everything that we like and everything that we don't like about the world and want to change about it.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive.
I
And
love that. That's so
thanks for
sweet.
inviting me
We
to
do
the
inspire each other. We do.
Mhm.
thanks for inviting me to the last show that you guys had, the fundraiser. I had a terrific time, and I'm always
You were fantastic.
thrilled to be included. So thank you very much. And anything I can do to help support, I always want to do it. So, man, I just want to say thanks so much. It was really an honor to get to know you two, and it's just I'm really impressed by all the things that you have going on. In closing, let's just one more time. We'll tell us a little bit about who you are and one thing you'd like to promote. We'll start with Kelly.
All right. Well, I am Kelly Guentner. You can find all my stuff at kellyguentner.com. That's KELLYGUENTNER. Please, please buy my books, Scorcher and Thin Ice. Even better than just buying my books, go to my website, follow the link through to my Indiegogo, contribute there. So you can not only get my books, but you can get the audiobook and hear. So I didn't say my narrators' names yet, which shame on me.
Yeah, give them a
So
shout
my
out. Go ahead.
amazing narrators are Kansas Badu and Chris Showers. And if you follow through the Indiegogo link on my website, you can get, it's only
Preview recordings that are
you can
really
get,
good.
oh my gosh. Yeah, so you can get preview recordings, and you can sign up to get an audiobook as soon as it's available, as soon as it's hot off the presses. Right now, with our recording schedule, it's going to be available around November. And they are just so talented. I just through the moon about them. Like, over the moon about them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kelly. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I am Crayle Vanest, and you can find all of my information at CrayleVanest.com. That's CRAYLE, V as in Victor, ANEST.com. My biggest project that I work on, especially this time of year and throughout the main convention season, is Pokeballs by Crayle. So Pokemon fans, anywhere on any type of social media, Pokeballs by CRAYLE, and I take custom orders. I have pre-made stuff. I'm all about trying to make new wacky stuff, and I'm trying to make them all. So Pokeballs by Crayle, that's my main bread and butter business and one of my main passions, even though I have a lot of passions. And together we are Phoenix Sisters Cosplay. Go to linktree.com/Phoenix Sis Cosplay. So Phoenix SIS Cosplay. That's where all of our creative stuff, especially the cosplay stuff, is.
Yes.
Nice. Perfect. Well, and I'll share those links below so for the viewers to be able to follow these two awesome people. And I just like to thank you once more for coming on the show. This was a really fun episode, and I'm very impressed with all your operations. I wish you every blessing in the future. So this has been an episode of the Creative Cranium. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.